Hello and welcome to episode 15 of the AuctioneerTech Auction Video Podcast. My name is Aaron Traffis. Got a great show for you today. I'm joined by three guests, each providing a different marketing service for auctioneers, and each with a track record for innovation. By way of housekeeping, before I get to introductions, the Q&A is open in the Hangout, so those of you watching us live can ask questions that we may or may not have time for during the show. This video will be available shortly after we're done on the AuctioneerTech YouTube channel, and I'll be sure to post a link to the auctioneer groups on Facebook once I've got it processed and posted. Don't feel like you're going to miss something if you have to step away. If you're watching this recording after today, January 7, 2015, welcome, and I hope you enjoy the show. My guests today are Russ Hilk from WaveBid, Daniel West from Auction Method, Dwayne Leslie from Global Auction Guide. I'm going to go around the horn here, and we'll give each guest the opportunity to introduce himself and his background. We'll start with Russ. Russ, tell me about yourself and a little bit about WaveBid.
Good morning, Aaron. Thanks for putting this together. I think it's a great opportunity. The company that I work with is called WaveBid, and WaveBid was designed to make the auction process easier for auctioneers. One of the offsets of WaveBid, of course, is LotNut. But I myself am an auctioneer. I went to Worldwide College of Auctioneering, graduated in 2004, and called bids for many years till the industrial auctions that I were doing migrated online. From there, we turned into an online-only auction company, and that continued to grow till we hit pinch point, just having to catalog, set up, and check out auctions. And that really was the brainstorm for starting WaveBid.
Okay. Daniel, let's go to Daniel West from Auction Method. Daniel, tell me about your background and Auction Method.
All right. Yeah. Thanks again, Aaron, a lot for putting this Google Hangout together. So yeah, I'm with AuctionMethod.com, which is a company that was created by myself and my brother. His name is Dennis West. We both used to work over at WestAuction.com. I was the lead auctioneer there. And similar to Russ, we ended up making the transition to online auctions and eventually developed our own software that we now branched off and are providing as a service called Auction Method. And what it is it's a bidding platform, it's auction management software, and it's website hosting all rolled together, along with a lot of custom development. And what I'll be talking about today is a website that we created called everysingleauction.com, where we curate auction news, announcements about upcoming auctions from all over the place, and we post them there and all over social media.
Welcome. Dwayne Leslie, next from Global Auction Guide and King of the North.
Well, my background, I guess, is a little more closer to what Aaron is rather than our other two companies here. I'm not an auction junkie. I was not an auctioneer. I'm sure I never will be. But I started out as a farmer who couldn't find auction sales easily. Back in 2001, we launched FarmAuctionGuide.com as our first testing the waters, and I, openly say this was a hobby that got out of hand in a really good way. 15 years later, Global Auction Guide Media Group, a network of websites, including AuctionGuide.com, which is our kind of our central hub where we use as a database to pull in data and share data with so many other companies. So basically it's a listing service. We just do advertising of upcoming auction sales. We let other companies do the simulcast and all the other type of things that they're good at. So that's my 30-second spiel, I guess.
Well, I wanted to get together and have a roundtable discussion about some of the ways that auctioneers can advertise their items and auctions on the internet. And each of you, as you've kind of mentioned, in addition to your primary business, each of you has a kind of an ancillary service that you're helping auctioneers advertise their items and their auctions, and I just want to spend a little time on each one of those, and we'll talk about it and maybe just ask questions from the group. And so, Dwayne, we'll go ahead and start with Auction Guy. You mentioned Global Auction Guide, and I'll see if I can't get a screen share going. But tell me about Auction Guy and what you kind of set out to do with it.
Yeah, well, Auction Guy we actually set up as a very simple site. It's not full of features like our global site is, but ultimately what it is a single site, a platform where we can share data. And by that I mean we pull in feeds from most of the major providers online. So if your sale is on Proxybid, it is on Auction Guy automatically. You don't have to do anything. We also work with Nextlot, obviously with WaveBid, with Auction Method, with so many of them now. We're working with BidSpotter and CUS at the moment to incorporate as well. We work with Auction Flex. Basically, to have a central point where the data can come in, and if an auctioneer wants it to go out to other places automatically, then we're certainly able to do that as well. From there, they can also power their own websites. They can power their phone apps, and basically just be able to find auctions for the general public to come in there as well. So,
talk a little bit more, if you would, about why you put it together. It's not the first attempt to provide a place to link auction catalog listings, and as an auctioneer who has spent a fair amount of well, let's not make any bones about it, I've spent a ton of hours in the past, uploading my auction to myriad different auction listing services. Why did you feel the need to put one together yourself?
Well, we were part of another network in the past with another site, and that things changed there, so we decided to build our own. And it was just still very humbling, even in the first week or two after we started talking to some of these other companies, how happy they were that we were going to take it to the next level. Because of our position where we are simply an advertising website. We always have been, always will be, and that way we're not in competition to Proxybid and Auction Flex and all these other companies. So they're happy to work with us to help their auctioneers without feeling threatened by, that we're going to do something or launch something or do something with this data to our benefits. So, and of course, Auction Guy is a free site, so any auctioneer can go on there and simply add their sales in a couple of minutes. We have a photo uploading system where you can upload an entire folder of photos with one click. You can pull in from Dropbox if that's where your photos are, without having to even to be uploading directly. So we try to make things easy, and if after 15 years, the easy button is what we try to find always.
What kind of reaction have you seen? When was it that you launched Auction Guy? You've had now to be clear, you and I have known each other for well over 10 years now, and we've at Purple Wave we've certainly been a user of Global Auction Guide for as long as I could remember, since we've known about it. But Auction Guy is a relatively new venture for you. When was it that you put that out?
I believe we're just starting our third year with that product. So,
what kind of adoption rate have you seen? What kind of reaction have you experienced from the industry?
Well, certainly from the industry, it's been very supportive. As I mentioned, being able to work with everybody without any competitive concerns has really been the big driver. And of course, everybody wants to help their clients and help their auctioneers, and sending their data to Auction Guy is a very simple way to do these type of things.
What would you say is next on the horizon for Auction Guy? Is it done?
Well, I think certainly for the last while we've been putting all our resources towards our global auctionguide.com product, and if anyone hasn't been on in the last 2 weeks, you will notice a brand new website, fully responsive, full of photos, simpler, cleaner, quicker. And we haven't even really made a big announcement about it yet, but that's where our resources and our time and our programmers have been spending. So.
This is the announcement. Thanks for waiting to do it on the show.
So as far as Auction Guy, it's probably going to be fairly static the way it is for the time being.
Sure. Russ, Daniel, you have any questions? Anything you want to know about Auction Guy before we move on?
I just wanted to take a second to thank Dwayne. I mean, when I ran West Auctions, we used you a lot, and I know they still do. And since I'm running every single auction, some of your posts, some of your auction news comes through on a regular basis, and I really appreciate it. You do a really amazing job promoting and syndicating auctions through your network.
Thank you. I know you've been doing a lot with social media, and we've been doing it on Twitter as well. We have our auction sale of the day, and but I know you've been taking that so much further, and I'm certainly looking forward to hearing more about what you do.
Cool.
Well, before we move on, I'm going to go to we'll go to Russ next, but I just want to say hi to the ATS class in Virginia is tuned in and watching, and that class is certainly near and dear to my heart. I was an instructor for a few years, and looking forward to continuing to work on that class. And so, hello everybody there in Virginia. Make sure and give Robert and John don't let them get out of there easy. Give them a hard time for me if you would. So we'll move on to Russ Hilk from WaveBid. Russ, you've put out a product called LotNut, one that I am certainly impressed with the way that it works and the way that it operates. Why don't you tell us about it if you would?
Thanks, Aaron. LotNut was a solution for a problem that I personally had. I also buy a lot at auction, and I was very frustrated. When you think of online auctions, it's actually a very segmented market. You've got bidding platforms like ProxyBid and BidSpotter. Then you have white label platforms like NextLot and Maxinet. And if you're trying to search to find stuff to buy, it's very difficult to be able to look at all the online auctions at once. And that was the genesis of LotNut. It was a way to aggregate all that auction data so that everything is in one easy-to-search spot. And we wanted to take a little bit different swing at it. The kind of LotNut is designed to be item-level searching. Again, solving the problem that I had, I buy very specific things online. So specific that they may not be in a lot of the bulk advertising that auctioneers do. You have to get down to that lot level to really find it. So when we built LotNut, we built it to be item-level search. And we also wanted to make it very visual. Because I'm tired of reading. I want to be able to look at the screen. Like Aaron just had up John Deere's. I can scroll through and look at 50 or 100 John Deere's and make a visual interpretation if it's something I'm interested in. If it is, I can click on that item. And then once I click on it, I can see additional photos or videos, and you're one step away from being able to bid. By clicking that Click to Bid button, you're immediately on that auctioneer's website where you can begin to interact with that item. That one seems like a buy to me. So that's kind of LotNut in a nutshell. It just is item-level search across all of the different internet platforms.
What have you? What kind of? So let's start from the beginning. How would I, as an auctioneer, get my items listed on LotNut?
Great question. So we wanted to try to make the listing process easy. It seems like I used to sit down and list every auction in 9 different places, and it just turned into a drag. So what we push most auctioneers to do, or their software providers, is to connect with us via an API. And what that is basically is an automatic connection between our services, so that every time you list items in an auction, they're automatically sent over to LotNut. That's kind of a build it once and let it continue to take care of itself going forward. Now, if you do live auctions or your software provider doesn't want to play nice, we can also upload it through WaveBid, which for an entire auction is maybe a 5 to 10 minute process depending upon the number of photos that you take.
Okay. What kind of adoption are you wanting to share any numbers with us? How many auctioneers do you have that are currently using the service, or how many providers are you currently working with?
We are working with ProxyBid, our good friends at MarkNet, and a variety of single companies like Purple Wave, for example, as well as everybody in the WaveBid network, which probably results in 10,000 plus auctions a month. It's a lot of content that's going through there. As far as adoption from buyers, you either get it or you don't. You either love being able to search at the item level and looking at photos, or you don't. So for those who do, it's a great way to get in there. For those who don't, you know what? There's lots of other websites for people to look at.
That's fair. I don't remember what I was doing or what I was searching for, but I came across a press release that referenced LotNut being used by a publication perhaps up north. Is there a partnership that you have with a newspaper or something like that? Do I recall that correctly?
Boy, Aaron, let me think. Yeah, there is, as a matter of fact. Nice serve. So we had all this data coming into LotNut, and I also tend to believe that most auctions are regional activities. The best stuff, the most expensive stuff has a global reach, but most of what gets sold day to day is a more local or regional experience. So we took the LotNut technology and brought it together with the Minneapolis Star-Tribune. That newspaper has about 7 million unique visits to their website on a monthly basis, and we created what's called the Star-Tribune Auction Hub. It's a way to take local buyers and match them up with local items, kind of introducing the auction method to a whole new audience.
I'll ask you the same question I asked Dwayne. Are you done? What's next?
No, we're never done. What we're working on now, what just went out, is the ability for a LotNut user to create an account so they can save searches, so they can even go in quicker, look at it, see if there's stuff they want, and get out and move on with their life. The other thing that we're going through currently is SEO optimization across the website, so that in organic searches, if you're typing in John Deere 4020, we're trying to boost that up in the Google results. Hopefully we can start to see some of that stuff on the first page.
What, and I certainly understand the altruistic desire to do something positive for the industry. Lord knows I've been doing that for a long time with AuctioneerTech. But what is there a business case for LotNut outside of helping your clients advertise auctions? Is there a monetization strategy that you're looking for, that you're interested in discussing, or why did you do it?
Realistically, and if you were to ask everybody in this office, they'd give you the same answer. Part of the reason we did it is because I wanted to be able to search all the different auction platforms at once. And if you have the tools, you may as well use them, right? That's the selfish reason. I think there's a long tail on this. I would hate to add ads to the side, but I also see a use case in helping to monetize the website. It's not an overly expensive endeavor on our part, but ultimately if we can connect more people with stuff they're interested in, even if it's through a paid ad, I'm for that. It also helps us introduce people to WaveBid, because once they kind of get in and see how we work, see how we leverage technology, a lot of different people like it just because they kind of understand what we're about. We're not a tech company as much as we're an auctioneer company with tech.
That's a good description. Dwayne, Daniel, you have any questions about LotNut?
About all I can say is I love the look so much I stole a lot of ideas for our new site. So.
Flattery, I love it.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about it, Russ, and hear how we can get our clients from Auction Method on LotNut as well. We
would welcome you with open arms. I mean, ultimately, the bigger we get this community, the better it serves everyone.
Absolutely.
Well, let's move on to Daniel West from Auction Method. Daniel, you've got a side hustle that may or may not be as much of a hustle as it is just another way for auctioneers to advertise their items, and I would say it's not an auction calendar service. It's not necessarily an item search service. Tell me about Every Single Auction.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not any of those things. It's something completely different. It's basically a website that has a lot of feeder sources for auction news. Excuse me. And so, it takes in news from, Google and all other places. It takes it from social media, Twitter, Facebook, Google Plus, you name it. I don't know how many different sources we have now. I think we're probably close to 3,000 or 4,000 sources for information, including, RSS feeds from auctioneers' websites and things like that. And so what happens is all of that content gets sucked up into a queue, if you will. And then I get to spend a little time every morning while I drink my coffee going through and curating the content from there that gets displayed on the site. And so what you see here actually is just a small portion of the amount of auction news that actually is flowing through us. But we can't actually share everything. We'd love to, but it ends up being a lot of the good content gets lost. So we're just trying to pick out the most relevant information, the links or the posts rather, that look like they'll get some traction, that have good images. We're looking basically for the high quality posts. A lot of what we see out there, especially on social media, the auction companies that are promoting themselves oftentimes are not sharing media, so they don't have pictures with their auction announcements. They don't have videos, and they oftentimes are not, saying the basics: who, what, when, where, why, what's going on. So it's difficult to tell even what's happening, and so a lot of the news doesn't make it on here. So we have to filter it out. And as you can see up at the top of the page, we have several subsections. So the main site, if you're looking at that main page and you scroll down, it's a never-ending scroll. You'll see auctions from way back when, and from right now, and from way back when. But then at the top of the page, you'll see that it's segmented. So if you wanted to get auction news that was real estate oriented, or that was for cars or whatever, we'll keep adding pages, segments to it. So we'll be probably hitting up a few different retail category perhaps, and maybe in business liquidations as well. Anyway, from there, so what happens is that all of this content comes in, we display it over here at everysingleauction.com, and then from there, a lot of the news then travels over to our social media channels. So we're really busy on Twitter, super busy on Facebook, Google Plus. There are a lot of different places where we're posting this information. We're trying to see what works best, where this news travels the best and where it gets seen by the most users. And so far, social media has been it, but our big thing is to push into greater syndication on other networks. But you'll see news on there from all over the place. We'll have to plug LotNut in somehow, but we definitely get a lot of news from the Global Auction Guide family. It comes from Proxybid, MarkNet, you name it. The data is coming from all over the place.
It's a trend I'm seeing and liking greatly. The services that rely less on the individual auctioneer spending a ton of time on the forums and uploads and all of that stuff, and instead looking to where the data is already and trying to plug into it. And I love that. That's wonderful. Daniel, why? Why are you doing this thing?
Yeah, well, I'll give you a quick backstory if you don't mind. The way that Every Single Auction started actually was I was thinking about ways. There are always these great calendaring sites already up. They're fantastic and they do their job well. There was no need for another one like that. But just like you said, I was looking for ways to make it easy. How can we take content that's already been generated by auctioneers and share that with the world? And so it started off actually as a whole other ball of wax, where what we were doing was signing up for everybody's mailing list, for their email lists. And then we had a system by which that when we got those mails in, the emails in, we would turn around and post it to the website. And it was great. I loved it. And I'm hopefully at some point we'll be able to resurrect it, because there's a lot of great content coming through via email marketing. But it was a lot of work, and because of the nature of email messages and stuff, it was not all that easy to handle. And the other thing was really surprising to me. I always imagined every auctioneer out there had an email list. If they had a website, they had an email list. It turns out that's not the case, right? A lot of people have totally skipped the email track and have gone straight to social media. And almost always the companies that have what it takes to run a mailing list and a website and whatnot, they're also on social media. So we went there. We went to where the auctions were, and we switched over to this system called Rebel Mouse. Anybody can use it. It's actually a free service. So anybody could build a website like every single auction. You could turn it on today if you wanted to for all kinds of different news. But we switched to them and started using their services to do this promotion, and we're able to cover so much more news. I mean, it's fantastic how much information is rolling through there.
You said something that was certainly interesting to me, and that is the degree of involvement that you have with this site. The amount of content is almost overwhelming. There is so many auctions there. Obviously, it's called every single auction, and so I understand your goal. But how much time would you say you spend? You mentioned over your coffee in the morning that you curate it. How much time do you? How many man hours a day go into maintaining the site?
Too much. I'm sure if my brother's listening, he would probably laugh and say the same thing. No, it's two different types of work that really are involved there. The curation is easy. It's so easy. Once the data sources are plugged in, it's really just a question of clicking, dragging, and dropping, and it takes me probably about maybe an hour in the morning to post the news to every single auction. And then from there, there's the other aspect of the work, which is the promotion via social media, and that takes a little bit longer. Not all the news can make it into the social media channels, but we try to share the best stuff. And that can take another hour and a half to get the scheduling worked out.
You've got every single auction namespaces on all of the social media platforms. What is your strategy with that? Just building awareness, or are you trying to source content specifically through your LinkedIn page or your Google Plus group, or what's your social media strategy?
So it's really an outbound one in the sense that part of it is to try to create a network. We're really interested not just in the marketing aspect of every single auction, but the way that we can really create this network online of all of the companies that are doing auctions, that are doing real auctions. And so it's primarily one of connecting to people, building lists, trying to get the content get the highest quality content, and then branch out past that, right? So we've got, the audience right now primarily seems to be auctioneers, surprisingly, but we get actually good feedback, and the public ends up turning around and sharing some of this auction news, and what ends up happening is we're watching that, right? Which channels create the best bang for your buck, if you will. And that was really what got us into it. Back to your original question, was we were always looking for ways to engage in automated marketing, auction marketing, and so this was just another way to do that. And so I think there's a bright future in front of us.
Russ and Dwayne, do you have any questions for Daniel about every single auction?
Not a question as much as a comment. I just want to applaud you. It's easy to build another website that lists auctions. It's kind of cool to see somebody leapfrog that and incorporate social media in a meaningful way where we don't know how it's going to come out on the other side. We can see that it's part of an internet strategy is more and more getting away from websites. I applaud you. I think it's awesome what you're doing. Thanks,
Russ. I appreciate that.
Well, let's move on. I've got some additional questions here. You guys, as I mentioned, each of you has been in this industry for a while. Each of you has a ton of experience working with different clients and auctioneers who are facing some challenges regarding data management, and it's a good thing that the ATS class is listening in, because I know that this is certainly always a topic of discussion there. But with regard to data management, and what are some changes that you as a service provider who lists auctions in one way or another, what are some changes that you would like to see auctioneers make in the way that they might source their data or upload their data? What are some challenges that they're facing, and how do they solve it? Let's start with, does anybody want to go first?
I'll go. If you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, one thing that I really, really, really like to see, and I alluded to this earlier, is when posting information in these various social media channels or wherever you're putting it, please, 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 please say actually what's happening, right? So just, it's too many times that auctioneers will say, I have an auction on Saturday, and they don't know, they don't realize they're speaking to a global audience, and the global audience doesn't know what that means, an auction on Saturday. Why? Do you have pictures? You know, can you tell us where it's happening exactly and what you plan on selling? Anything else that we might need to know about this auction? I'd love to see them kind of take it up a notch. There are a lot of companies that are engaged in automated social media marketing, which is great. It has its uses. I'm not knocking it at all. But there's a lot of the social component to it is kind of missing. It's oftentimes this kind of formulaic posting by auction companies, and those don't seem to get a lot of traction. If you're going to be on social media, you got to be social, right? So that's one of the, and kind of one thing that I would suggest. And then the other thing that I think that auctioneers would really do well to kind of pay attention to is that the landscape has changed. The way that we do business has changed tremendously now that we're online. It used to be that, you know, competition was kind of the rule, right? That auctioneers didn't try to help each other out, and they certainly wouldn't tell their clients about some other auctioneers, you know, auctions that were happening. But that's changed, and you can actually become a really valuable resource for your audience, whoever that audience is, by sharing news that's relevant to them. And if your audience is made up of auction bidders, then sharing news, even if it's from other companies, it doesn't have to be all about you, right? So if you can get in there, you can help other auctioneers by sharing and promoting their announcements and liking their pages, building this network, you'll really reap the benefits from it.
Dwayne, what do you think? What are some of the most important tips you would give auctioneers when they're building their catalogs and uploading them?
Well, I couldn't agree more with Daniel there about the mindset of auctioneers. If I can talk a little bit about that. Auctioneers and auction companies think that they're promoting themselves all the time, and which they are, because they're always promoting themselves for that next sale. But the person who's looking at those items, in all honesty, and we've done surveys on this, that you know, as high as 80% of our bidders or people using our site don't care who the auction company is. They are looking for that item. And you know, as LotNut is a perfect example, we're getting to that item level. People are looking for that item, whether that's John Deere tractor is on an auction or anywhere, maybe on a dealer lot, things like that. They're looking for the item. Now, if they're looking to have a sale, well, now they're starting to look for the auction company. So they really need to walk that fine line between which is more important, branding themselves or promoting that item and promoting that sale and those type of things. But from a technical aspect, if I can make one comment, I wish auctioneers wouldn't depend too much on Microsoft Word, because when they try to copy and paste data just nice and simple into our system or any of your systems, as you all know, there's so much extra tags and so much junk in that code that they don't see and understand that drives all of us crazy. And I can tell from everybody's response, we've all been through this every day, every week, every month since it was invented. So, but that's just one little thing anyways.
I'd say the most important program on any computer is Notepad, that you use to copy out of Microsoft Word, copy into Notepad, and copy from there into wherever you're going with it. I couldn't agree more with you on that. Russ, what are some challenges that you see?
Not necessarily challenges as much as having been an auctioneer and doing online auctions in 2004, fast forward to 2015 and things are a lot easier. They're a lot better. When you had a 128K memory stick and you could get 14 photos and then you'd have to download and repeat, it wasn't advantageous to take 10 photos of every item. But the reality is today, you need to take 10 photos because people's appetite for visual response online has exploded. So I guess I would really say it's becoming, it's not there yet, but it's becoming easier to be successful online. The other thing I would add is if online, we are the eyes and the ears of every potential bidder. If we don't show them, they don't see it. And if we don't tell them, they don't know it exists. So when you look at things like descriptions, it's not okay to say John Deere tractor anymore, because it just doesn't give them enough to be able to engage with you. And believe me, if you have what they want to buy it from you. But as auctioneers, we just need to reach out more and give them the details so they're comfortable pulling the trigger. And frankly, I think it's getting much, much easier with the new technology and the new hardware that's coming into the market.
We've got a question from the crowd, the live viewers. Philip Pearsall, auctioneer friend, certainly mine from Texas, if I remember correctly. He asks, "What is your favorite media or social media outlet?" Daniel, we'll start with you. What's your favorite? Which social media are you most bullish on?
Reddit. So I love Facebook, I love Twitter, and Google+. Come on, if you guys aren't on Google+, you gotta get on there, right? Even if it's a ghost town, and no one's really using it for personal use, you have to get on there for the Google juice. So create your company page, share some posts, put your YouTube videos on there, and you'll get some juice out of it. So if you're already on Twitter, probably. If you're not, get on there. Their paid advertising services are awesome. You're probably already on Facebook if you're here, so that's good. But Reddit. Reddit.com. So just be forewarned that if you go there and you don't know what it's all about, you're going to see some stuff that you like, some stuff that you may not like, because it covers all kinds of ground. But the neat thing about it is that it's a huge, huge, huge community that's very, very active. And if you place a post on there correctly, if you target it right, you post it in the right section of the website, you can get a massive response for actually no money, just a little bit of time. They do have paid advertising services that I've used really effectively, and that's awesome. But beyond that, the community can deliver a response like no other. I've been amazed sometimes when I post a link on Reddit. Sometimes I'll do that. I'll come across something that's really, really interesting, and I'll share it somewhere on Reddit. And then if it's a site that I manage, I can actually, I can check the analytics on it, or whichever way I do, even if I shorten the link, I can check the analytics on there, and it's amazing how many people will click through. I mean, you can with a properly timed post and nicely well placed post, you can get within just a few minutes, you can get like 200 or 300 visitors who are interested in what you're talking about. So I'd suggest that you check it out. But again, be forewarned. There's a lot of stuff on there.
I love that answer. I did not expect that answer, but I certainly have become over the last year and a half a huge Reddit user and Reddit fan, and it makes me sad that the kind of the default discussion location for auctions is the Auctioneers group on Facebook, because as a mechanism for curating a discussion and topics, the Reddit system is so much better from a technical perspective, with the ability to vote up and down and the way that it sorts.
Can I throw in something there? One thing, even if you're not using it just for marketing, so Reddit is also a fantastic place to figure out like what you're selling. Or if you have a particular challenge. One time I had some intellectual property from a bankruptcy business that had gone bankrupt. It was some software, and we were told that it had no value at all. The trustee didn't want to sell it. I was curious about it, so I posted a question onto one of the subreddits, one of the technology subreddits, and asked them about it. They said, "Man alive, you better get on there. You better try to sell it. Here's how you should do it. Here are the companies you should reach." And because it was an honest question, I just wanted to know what they thought. I wasn't trying to solicit them to come to my website and bid on this stuff, although that happened as well. But they gave me so much information to go off of, because I didn't know what I was doing when it came to trying to sell the source code for a mobile game app, right? But they ended up giving me all the information that I needed, so I really check it out.
Dwayne, what's your social media venue of choice?
Well, I think most people have known me that know that I love Twitter, and I use that as my primary spot, not just for marketing and different things, but just simple things as keeping track of the weather and the news and other things like that, and try to keep it in a usable format and not try to get overloaded. But the one that I have a love-hate relationship with is Facebook. On a personal basis, I despise it, but from a business standpoint, I know that it is a huge thing, and probably at the moment one of the best places to spend marketing money for an auctioneer would have to be on the featured posts. That seems to be getting a huge response, and it's very trackable, and I'm sure that the fellows at the ATS course teaching there know all about that. So that would be my 2 cents on that topic anyways.
Russ?
From an auctioneer standpoint, marketing their business, I would say Facebook for auctions, particularly groups. For business, it would be promoting your business. I would definitely recommend LinkedIn. I think it's 100% underserved by this industry. And if you want to be the top result, as soon as this is over, of course not before, go to LinkedIn and set up your company profile and keyword tag it correctly so that when someone types in your state auctioneer, your county auctioneer, your city auctioneer, you're the top result. It's totally underserved right now. I'm also a huge fan of the groups on LinkedIn. If you correctly interject with questions, it can be an absolutely wonderful marketing opportunity to reach business professionals.
I've had mixed results. I tried to participate in some of the groups, and maybe I'm just finding the wrong groups. But if I look at heavy equipment and some of those associated groups, I see just a ton of international, what I would consider spam stuff that is a long way from what I would consider relevant. So that's kind of turned me off. Maybe I'll give it a second chance.
As far as Russ, you had actually asked a few days ago, I think you sent out a survey about favorite social media outlets, and I had responded with LinkedIn, and I agree with you 100%. I think LinkedIn is an amazing place to do advertising, especially their paid advertising, while very, very expensive, is worth it. Because they are reaching a target audience of professionals. What I found is that advertising your auctions on LinkedIn is probably not as effective as, say, advertising your auctions on Facebook, because you're trying to reach an audience of buyers who can be anyone. But if you're trying to reach sellers and you're trying to connect with people who can become sellers, LinkedIn's the place to be.
From our Q&A. I don't know that it's a room or whatever, the Q&A board. Stuart Bain has a question. What alternatives to Word do we recommend? We were a little hard on Microsoft Word a little while ago, and I don't know, and I'll let each of you answer it if you want to, but I think the key isn't that you can't use Word or any other Bush League word processor to create your auction copy, but the secret is to make sure and sanitize it before you paste it into something on the web, and that's what I mentioned about copying it into Notepad or some similar text editor that doesn't support formatting. If you copy it there first and then copy that into the web, it works a heck of a lot better. Or just, I can't even say that. I was going to say, or just use the web form and type it there, but that doesn't really work from a scalability perspective. Do you guys have any thoughts on a better way to create auction copy?
No, I think there's some pretty good. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dwayne.
No, go ahead, Daniel.
There are some systems for generating copy that are pretty good already. I think WaveBid does that, doesn't it, Russ? I think so, right?
Yeah.
And then Auction Method does it well, but I think that you can, if you were using Word, I pasted a link in there, and I don't know if you can share it or not. It's called Convert Word to HTML.com. That'll allow you to retain all your formatting if you're gonna do that. There's also one other place that you might want to check out. There's an extension for Chrome called Photor, F-O-T-O-R, and you can use that to create all kinds of compilation images. So you can, if you go to your website and you click that little extension, it'll allow you to select all the pictures. You can select pictures. You can add text. You can do all kinds of stuff with it.
Good stuff.
I recommend using Word if you're comfortable with Word. The last thing we want to do is make the process more complicated. What the four of us were laughing about is Word just has some idiosyncrasies where if you don't look at what you just pasted in, specifically after you've saved it, you may end up with a bunch of extra characters or formatting that doesn't make sense or stuff that's going to detract from your actual listing. So long as you look at it before you submit it, you're okay. I mean, we don't want to make it more complicated. I still use Word. Just don't tell anyone.
Yeah, and I think something nowadays auctioneers have to be careful about is when they're doing their headings and colors and fonts and bullet points and all these type of things. It may look great on that desktop or on the desktop version or in Word or wherever you do it, but what does that look like when you're on a iPhone or a tablet or all these type of things? When if you're on a responsive site, everything gets squished down, and then what does it look like? So we've really been encouraging people to kind of simplify things. You know, some people really love color and headings and all those type of things, but keep it simple, and people still find it just as well as they always have.
What are some additional services that none of you offers that auctioneers should be using to advertise their items on the internet? What are some other services kind of in the vein of what we've been talking about? Is there something that may not be on the average auctioneer's radar that should be?
I mean, I've been building a list of them. I'll rattle off a few of them. Everybody knows about AuctionZip, of course, so make sure your auctions are listed there. Auction HQ, I don't think that's affiliated with anybody here. For sure, use Craigslist, and just a word on Craigslist, don't post your auctions, post your items, and post them a lot of times. So create lots of Craigslist postings for individual items. You can reference the other items that are being sold in the auction, but don't go and create some fancy copy to post into Craigslist about your upcoming auction. It's not like that. You advertise your items there. And then auction services, policeauctions.com. That's a surprise, actually. For many years, I've gotten good traffic from policeauctions.com, which just didn't seem like the place that would send traffic my way, but it's good stuff. There's also for estate sellers, there's estatesales.net and estatesales.org.
Dwayne, do you have any thoughts on other services that would be valuable?
Advertise everywhere you can that's cost effective. We've been doing this a long time, and we've seen competitors come and go, and I've always encouraged auctioneers to use as many people as they can, because you never know where that next bidder is going to find you from. And especially with the costs of advertising on the internet being so low, to use the shotgun approach can be very effective. But of course, the Craigslist, the Canadian version is called Kijiji.ca. Any of these type of places where you can get to the mainstream buyers, the people who aren't concentrating and thinking about auctions in general, or auction junkies, get the people, once again, who are looking for items. And if it just happens to be your item and it happens to be by auction, well, that's great too.
Russ?
I think for sure you want your state associations, and if you're a member of the National Auctioneers Association, you want to make sure you're included there. And Dwayne hit the nail on the head when he said shotgun marketing. At the end of the day, we're looking for two bidders, one to drive it up and one to buy it, and we don't know where they're going to come from. So we want to throw as much lead into that field as we can, because we don't know what we're going to hit. I would encourage auctioneers to look outside of the typical auction wheelhouse, the zips, the zaps, the stuff we all know about, and look at where people buy the stuff that we sell. I think Daniel was absolutely spot on with estatesales.net and estatesales.org. Everybody's tired with them posting on Zip, so let's say thank you and post on their websites, because at the end of the day, people want items, and if you have what they're selling, they don't care if they get a good deal from an estate sale or they have to pay fair market from an auction. They want what you have, they'll engage with you. You just have to get it in front of them.
I'm going to chime in real quick on that and say that there are also a lot of regional listings. There is one that is specific to Kansas and Missouri that we get just an obscene amount of traffic to for our auctions, and I believe it's kansasauctions.net. But the point is that there are likely some local it doesn't have to be a national listing. If you're having an auction in an area, make sure you've exhausted all of the opportunities for that particular area. There's an alternative to Craigslist in Kansas, in one specific part of Kansas that has caused the Craigslist ability to drive traffic in that area to be negligible. It's next to nothing because this other classified site is so pervasive. And so make sure you see the whole field and all of the services that are available. Got another question from our Q&A. Jason Hanks asks, with regards to Craigslist, he says, what are your thoughts on item level marketing on Craigslist? And we've mentioned that already, but let's spend a little more time on it. It is very time consuming. The question, I guess, specifically, do we know of any auto post services or shortcuts to cut down on the listing time?
I'll just jump in and say, Jason, give me about a week and we'll knock your socks off.
There you go. It's announcement 30 here on the podcast.
The thing with Craigslist as far as automation goes is automatically posting is a blatant violation of their terms and conditions. And they really, really, really frown upon it. And it's helped keep the community clean. It keeps all that spam out that really makes a website not fun to go to. That being said, there's some stuff in the pipeline that I think will help out a lot.
Yeah, same thing as what Russ said. Any auto posting services are they're bad news. You probably don't want to get involved with them. I've seen some people use auto posting services where the auto poster hijacks their content and redirects links back to their own website. It's no good. But as far as cutting down on time, that's it, right? You got to pay for the advertising somehow, and you're either going to pay for it with your time or with your money or both. With Craigslist, it's time, and the more that you can cut down on that time, the better. That's part of the reason we built in with the Auction Method platform. We built a Craigslist ad generator, right, where you just create some basic ads with the right format using the content from the site, so you don't have to type it in or copy and paste it. It presents you with the images, the 4 or 5 images or whatever it is that you're allowed to post on Craigslist, and that cuts down dramatically on the time. But even if you don't have a system like that, I think WaveBid has something like that, but even if you don't, it is worth the time. Just get an efficient system down for doing it, even if it just means, opening up multiple tabs and going through and copying and pasting. It's worth it. Even if most people, I don't think, can track the visitors that they get from Craigslist because of their hyperlinking policies, but the traffic is coming from there for sure.
Yeah, I think
I think the only thing I can add is when it comes to Craigslist is you need to be persistent, because if you get into a flag war with somebody who doesn't like auctions or the way you're doing things, then you might be back reposting that item or that sale over and over and over. But it's definitely worthwhile.
Yeah, it was about a year ago, if memory serves, that they turned off the ability to include links in their listings, and we still use it. I think it's still certainly worthwhile. The one thing to be mindful of, certainly, if you are posting more than once or twice a day from your one IP address, make sure that you go back 15 or 20 or 30 minutes later and verify that those listings are appearing, because there is a phenomenon known as ghosting, to where it shows to you that these listings are there, but when you start a new browser and do a search, they are not there. And so make sure that you are not spending a ton of time on listings that aren't showing up. We don't have a ton of time left. I'm going to ask a couple more questions, and we'll try and wrap up shortly after the hour here. It was mentioned earlier on about social media, and Daniel, you touched on the robotic postings related to that. There are some auctioneers who have turned to outsourcing social media. What are your thoughts on the wisdom of that? Certainly, the biggest challenge is that most auctioneers are very busy and don't have the hours and hours per day that it takes. What do you think about the option to outsource social media?
It's probably pretty hard to do right. The whole point is that it's social, right? And you're talking about yourself, what you're doing, what you're selling. You're sharing funny pictures of the office dog or whatever it is that's going on. And it's really hard to outsource that component of it. And nobody knows your auctions as well as you do. I mean, how do you share those unique items of interest? How do you know your market, right? Some other company doesn't. They can generate a lot of posts, and that's fine. They'll maybe they can create lots of images and get them posted for you on a regular basis, but it's going to come off as somewhat insincere. And whatever amount of time that you spend, just like with Craigslist, you don't have to spend necessarily a lot of money on social media, but you do have to spend some time, and the time is well spent being social, talking to people, sharing their stuff, commenting, liking, and posting information about what you're selling and what you're up to.
Dwayne, thoughts on outsourcing social media?
It's like everything. If you're lucky enough to find the right person who can do it, then that's great. Otherwise, it'll just come through as being very, very ineffective, and it'll like a bot there that's just trying to do things. And like many things, sometimes the only way you can do it is to do it right, is to do it yourself. And unfortunately, a lot of auctioneers don't have the time to do that and do it properly.
Russ, anything to add?
Absolutely. Social media is about engagement. It's about connecting with your customers beyond the invoice level. So much of what we do is, here's a payment, here's an invoice, thanks, next step. Social media is designed to kind of transcend that and allow a connection between you and your customers, be them buyers or sellers. Now, if you think a third party is better at doing that than you are, then you found a great third party to work with. Realistically, I think the message of your business will get lost with somebody who's just there to promote it. At least in my opinion, with the way I would encourage people to engage with social media, which isn't just billboard advertising, auction, 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 because people tune that out.
I think the temptation sometimes is because the younger generation might have a better grasp of social media in their day-to-day lives, that some auctioneers say, well, I've got a niece who's active on Twitter, I'll just have her take over my brand page. And sometimes those of a younger generation may not have a firm grasp on the English language and how to use it professionally. And so that's the one thing I would say to be careful of, is to make sure that your brand image isn't reduced by the way that it's being promoted on social media. We'll do a quick around the horn before we get to our outro here. What's your favorite new tech toy that's changed your life that you can no longer live without? Daniel. And I'm just going left to right here. I called down on Daniel every time, but that's just because he's on the left on my screen. So.
You put me on the spot. My
right.
favorite new tech toy. Crap. The first thing that comes to mind is completely unrelated to social media and all of that. I've been experimenting with generating auction images from video. So the idea behind this, and you can play with it yourselves, maybe you guys can figure this out, but if you can do HD video and you go through and you video your whole auction and get nice close-up images or close-ups of your items, you can run it through a processor that will take the stills out of that, right? So then you actually wind up with video content and with image content as well. It's not a new tech toy or anything, but it's what's on my mind.
That's very interesting. Dwayne?
Probably the newest, neatest thing I've got lately is a USB charger that actually has a cord on it with half a dozen outlets that all automatically adjust to whatever's plugged into it. So you can actually plug half a dozen iPads into it, and it'll give you your 2 amps and automatically, and not have to worry. So it's made my last 2 weeks a lot easier traveling.
Russ.
This is embarrassingly lame, but we're using DocuSign now. It's not even a tech toy, but if you want to talk about a single, don't laugh, a single piece of something that's made my life a lot easier, any auctioneer who signs contracts on a regular basis needs to look at some sort of an automated signature process. This probably saves me 30 minutes a day. And it's so immediate. You can get people when they're hot, get them signed up and going without having the rigmarole of a regular contract. I'm in love with it. It's a great tool that helps make business a little easier.
Hey, can I throw another one in here? I'm sorry, I was on the spot a while ago. I've got one that everybody's got to try out. This is really, really neat, if a little bit creepy. So if you have Chrome, I think maybe it's on Firefox as well, but check out the extension called Sidekick by HubSpot. If you're not familiar with HubSpot, check them out too. They are awesome, but this one extension is free. It's called Sidekick by HubSpot. And what it does is it allows you, when you're sending your emails, it tells you when people open it and when they click on links in there. So you can actually sit here, you can send an email out, and then you can wait, and then you'll get a little pop-up notification that says, you know, Russ Hilk is looking at your email about WaveBid, and then, oh, Russ Hilk clicked on your email or clicked on this link. It's fascinating, and if used right, it can actually help you with the timing of your sales calls.
That is pretty creepy. It reminds me of the Woopra service that you would put on your website, like Google Analytics, that would let you flag IP addresses, and then you would know by name the people who are on your site at any given time. I'm going to chime in real quick with a technology that over the course of the last couple of months has changed my life, and I don't know why I didn't hook up with it sooner. And that's the Qi charging wireless standard. I've moved all my devices over to the Nexus line, and the Nexus 5, 6, and 7 each has wireless charging built into it, and so I've kind of wallpapered a lot of the surfaces in my house with the cheap Chinese Qi chargers that I've found on eBay, and that combined with some kind of vehicle mounts that I've made myself with a fence post and a welder and a drill press, have gotten me away from the old, the little suction cup to the windshield thing. I've now got a rail in my truck where I can use ram mounts and actually hold them tight, and I've hot glued a charger onto the thing. It's really made traveling a heck of a lot easier to not have to worry about where your phone is or which bump is going to knock your suction cup off your windshield. So that's RAM mounts and wireless charging. I'm loving it. So we're going to wrap up. We've gone just over an hour, and I can't thank you guys enough for joining me today. Let's go around the horn again and give each of you the opportunity to plug your contact information, and then maybe where we might be able to see you at any upcoming conventions if you've got a travel schedule over the next year or so. Daniel, where can we learn more about you and your company?
AuctioneerMethod.com, everysingleauction.com. You can hook up with me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. My Twitter handle is Big Belt Buckle. It's a small reference to auctioneers. I'm busy on a lot of different networks, but if you hit me up on Facebook or Google, that'll be good.
Dwayne?
You can find us, of course, our new site at globalauctionguide.com. You can find us on Twitter at AuctionGuy, as well as my personal account at WebFarmer. We've got a pretty heavy schedule of auctioneer conventions this month, starting in Minneapolis tomorrow, followed by Pennsylvania, Ohio, Kansas, Michigan, Wisconsin, Alberta, and that's just this month. And then February starts a whole new set again. So look forward to seeing many of you out there.
And Russ?
You can find me by visiting the website wavebid.com. I think Twitter is dumb, so you won't find me there. You can find me on Facebook at Russ Hilk or Wavebid. And ultimately, I'd love to talk to you face-to-face, just like Dwayne. I think this month we're in Minnesota at their convention, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Ohio, Michigan, Iowa, Kansas, Oklahoma, and I'm sure I'm missing a couple. But face-to-face is always great because a handshake is much better than a hangout, although I will admit this is a pretty cool thing you put together.
Well, sure. Thank you guys for joining me today. That's going to do it. I look forward to seeing Dwayne and Russ in Minnesota here tomorrow evening. Anyway, I'll be in Minnesota, and for Purple Wave, I'll be also hitting Iowa and Kansas and Missouri here coming up over the next month or two. And so, if you attend any of those, come up and say hi, and we'll talk about auctions and technology. My name is Aaron Traffis. I'm at Traffis on Twitter, and you can learn more about me at purplewave.com/Traffis. If you have questions or comments about today's discussion, please chime in the comments on AuctioneerTech, on YouTube, on Facebook, wherever you find this video. I'm sure we'll see your comments, and we'd love to add to the discussion. So, thank you for watching. Now go sell something.